What Made Me? The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly by Jeanette Phillips. Mittagong, 2575. Narrated by Chloe Schwank. When pondering upon the question of what made me, the first thing that came to mind was the theme music from the old movie classic, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This title suddenly seemed as good as any way to begin categorizing a few key points from my life, and hopefully discovering what made me, me. The Good. This is the easy one. The part of what made me I prefer to dwell upon. The part which blends into the mostly ordinary. My family, the whole motley crew, but especially my husband and co-life journeyer, my amazing children and grandchildren, my few close friends, and the many and multifaceted interactions with them all over my 66 years, all playing a huge part of making me, me. My mum, number one influencer in my life, was kind, gentle, intelligent, brave, hardworking, and uncomplaining, as well as a strong yet quiet defender of women's rights. She was a prolific reader, and at 4 years old I wanted to be just like her, a bookworm. My mum instilled in me a love of learning, especially history, and a thirst to know all about people from other places and cultures and so much more. She was my inspiration for achieving a Bachelor of Arts in Cultural Studies, albeit in my 50s, and of realizing a long-term goal when recently qualifying as a marriage celebrant. My mum was such a huge part of making me me, but she was only one piece of what is now looking more and more like a huge unfinished puzzle. Life is a jigsaw with almost infinite pieces, each tableau remaining incomplete until we draw our final breath. The major pieces of my picture, however, are already in place. My husband and our ultimate achievements, our son and daughter and their children, and all that encompasses over the years. My family is, without doubt, the major part of what made me, me. The Bad. I usually think of myself as a glass-half-full type of a person, finding it hard to dwell on the bad. But locked deep in my chest is a bottomless chasm of pain and sorrow, flimsily barricaded over the decades, which must also be acknowledged as a part of what has made me, me. So, here goes. The horrifying, life-changing incident occurred when my son was 8 years old. He was badly burnt when our friend's brand-new ski boat he was sitting in, waiting for the promised very short trip up the river and back, blew up when they turned on the ignition. Our family, our son, our then 6-year-old daughter, my husband and I, and both pairs of grandparents, were suddenly jettisoned into a nightmare of hurt and anguish, which was to have lifelong consequences for us all, particularly, of course, for our son. Life as we knew it stopped that day as we were pulled into an alternative universe of the Children's Hospital's burns unit. Part of my soul turned to charcoal, but strength was needed and belief in the best possible outcome for my son. He taught me by example with his bravery and fortitude, but it was a lesson I wish to God I need not have learnt that way. This experience left everlasting black lumps and ragged holes in my life's picture. The Ugly. Life, as John Lennon so aptly sang, is what happens while you're busy making other plans. I have found it is usually the unplanned which impacts us most, such as my mum being diagnosed with cancer. My mum called me her rock, but inside I felt far from solid. It took 10 years from beginning to end, but what a cruel road to travel to the next life. In her last few months of treatments, I watched as she shrank, until one day the chemo chair was all that was left. She told me she was not ready to leave this mortal coil. That enduring sadness became a new part of me. The good/ordinary/special. I've been fortunate as many good/ordinary happenings have made up the most of me, meaning that on reflection, my ordinary life is actually quite special. I am as much a product of the love from my husband and children, from my beautiful grandchildren, from my parents and sister, from friends, even from my pets, as I am from what I experienced when moving from England to Australia to live at 7 years old, or from being at high school in the 70s, or from the discipline of years of dance training, or the care and responsibility of looking after horses I used to ride, or the wealth of knowledge gained from almost 50 years of employment in various paid and/or voluntary jobs. So very many things have made me the multi-dimensional person I am today, the good, the bad, the ugly, as well as the ordinary/special. I can only wonder what new experiences may lay ahead and how my jigsaw will ultimately look, with hopefully many extra pieces still needed as I continue to learn what makes me, me. The end.